Without a strong manufacturing base, a country is screwed. That's because, as Adam Smith pointed out back in 1776 in his book Wealth of Nations, only manufacturing produces new wealth for a nation. Service sector is important for an economy. We need somebody washing cars and repairing computers. But without the manufacture of that car or that computer, the nation has no real or original wealth. Every time you look at something in your house or apartment that's stamped with a made in fill-in-the-blank country sticker, or made in any nation, you know that's one less product manufactured by an American factory, by American hands, generating jobs and real wealth for America. The government of Brazil knows this, which is why they're taking steps this week to protect their manufacturing base. As this weekend's Financial Times reported in an article titled "Brazil Vows to Protect Manufacturing," the Brazilian Finance Minister Guido Mantenga is taking new steps to protect their own domestic industries from a flood of cheap goods manufactured mostly in Asia. As the Finance Minister told the Financial Times, we don't want to lose our manufacturing sector. In 2010, Brazil's economy grew at a blistering 7.5% rate. But then it slowed down last year to just 2.7%, and in January of this year, Brazil's manufacturing sector actually declined 2.1% after a flood of Asian imports poured into Brazil's retail stores, cutting demand for products manufactured in Brazil by Brazilian workers, creating real wealth for Brazil. As the Financial Times reports, the government fears that employers will try to maintain their competitiveness by cutting workers' salaries, hampering domestic consumption. Domestic consumption is the key phrase here. The Brazilians know that demand drives an economy, and the vast majority of demand in an economy comes from workers having good wages, money in their pocket that they can go out and spend, further creating demand for more goods and services. Brazil is absolutely committed to not making the same stupid mistake the United States made by embracing the now totally discredited supply-side Reaganomics, which says that when rich people do well, the money trickles down to everybody else. They want their workers to make the money, their workers in their country, so those workers will stimulate the demand side. And they're also committed to not making the stupid mistake we made of becoming totally defenseless against foreign manufacturers, the idiocy of so-called free trade. Meanwhile, back here in the United States, we're still stuck with Reaganomics and free trade, and transnational manufacturing corporations have laid off 2.9 million Americans and hired overseas workers to the tune of 2.4 million workers just since 2000, sucking all the stimulus that those jobs and wages once produced here in the United States out to foreign countries. With free trade deal after free trade deal, the United States has committed itself to a suicidal race to the bottom, falling wages and collapsing domestic manufacturing. Instead of doing what we should have done, which is to protect domestic manufacturing, like Brazil is going to do. With a mix of new monetary policies and new protections for domestic industries, the finance minister of Brazil is working to revive Brazil's manufacturing base. First, Mantenga is giving a tax break to manufacturers, like the textile and clothing industry that employs 2 million workers in Brazil, so Brazilian companies don't have to cut wages to stay competitive. He's also imposing higher taxes on imported cars, import tariffs, so that foreign car manufacturers can't undercut domestic car manufacturers. Of course, the free traders who come from transnational corporate boardrooms and benefit the most from so-called free trade are hysterical. But Minister Mantenga is holding firm, saying Brazil is not taking protectionist measures, Brazil is taking defensive measures. We are in favor of free competition, but we cannot keep our borders completely free while others are using non-competitive mechanisms. Brazil knows how an economy works and just how vital a strong and protected manufacturing sector is to a healthy economy. Unfortunately, our policymakers don't know that. That's why every month over the last 10 years, 50,000 manufacturing workers in America have been laid off. Every single month, 50,000 workers gone. Tens of thousands of once booming manufacturing plants are now shuttered, lining Amtrak's Northeast Corridor with broken windows, crumbling walls, and graffiti-stained facades. In the time it takes me to tell you all this, 5 minutes or so, well over $1 million of American industry, mostly manufacturing, will have been sold off to foreign investors to generate profits for foreign economies instead of for the American economy. In fact, more than $4,000 of American industry is sold off every single second of every single day, 24/7, 365. As a result of this liquidation sale of America's manufacturing base and the resulting massive trade deficits, the United States has, in just 30 years, gone from being the world's largest creditor to the world's largest debtor. Instead of being the world's largest exporter of manufactured goods, as we were 30 years ago, before Reagan came into office, we've become the world's largest importer of them. We've gone from being the world's largest importer of raw materials to becoming the world's mining pit, now standing as the world's largest exporter of raw materials and minerals. In just 3 decades, we went from being the world's premier first world nation to becoming the world's largest second world nation, all because we forgot what it means to protect domestic manufacturing. We forgot Alexander Hamilton's 11-point plan for protecting domestic manufacturing with tariffs and subsidies. It was put into place in 1793 and lasted nearly 200 years as the United States went from being a rural and agrarian nation to the world's economic powerhouse. While other nations like Brazil are developing or developed, thanks in large part to adopting parts of Alexander Hamilton's 11-point plan, the United States has spent the 30 years since Reagan undeveloping in a way that has never before been seen in our nation's history. Ross Perot, that crazy old coot with the big ears of the charts and graphs, he was right. If we don't wake up to this economic disaster soon and begin protecting our manufacturing base like we did from 1793 until Reagan came along, then our nation will continue to slide down the bumpy road toward third world status.